Hello. Hello, hello, hello.
Hi, Tom.
Okay.
Hi. Sorry about that. Wait, guys. Thank you, Faith. Faith got us logged in remotely, so sorry about that.
Those palm trees back there?
It's the courthouse. I think it's just like too hot.
It's their house plan.
So we're
Those
just
were in.
missing Wyatt?
We're missing Wyatt, and I think we will miss him today. I think he's on a college tour.
Yeah, That's what
remember? So that's where we're at. So I'm going to, and I'm sorry guys, so I was rushing from one meeting to the next. And so give me a moment and I'm gonna pull some things up for us and we can get started. Just a sec. Tom, it looks like you got a haircut.
every 6 weeks, whether I need it or not.
I need to find our slides. Hold on. So let me do this. While I'm doing this, I'm going to call this meeting of the Strategic Plan Ad Hoc Committee to order on July 13th at 1:09 p.m. And so let's go ahead and do a roll call. Melissa Newts. Here. Tom Blue Rock.
Here.
James Willich.
Right.
And Wyatt is out, and I, Carrie Kale, am here. So thank you for that. And then I also know on our agenda, while I'm searching through other things here, we need to approve our minutes from the last meeting, which would have been July the 6th. Do I have a motion to approve our minutes from last week?
So moved.
Have a second?
Thank you.
I think I heard a second from James.
Okay.
All in favor?
Yep. Yes.
Aye.
Hi.
All right. Great. Thank you folks for that. So I am pulling a couple of things. Let me share my screen now. All right. And here is our slide deck. Let me just slide it down. So we had, I'm going to kind of go back one. We've been sort of looking at values last week. Let me go back to here. So things we've talked about for goals. So I just wanted to remind us kind of where we were. We brought some of this information forward from where the goals were. And I think we have played with these goals here a little bit already and some thoughts that we had talked about. And we decided that as homework, we were going to pull out at least 5 statements from the growth policy as potential for goals. And there's that screen. So I am going to thank you, Tom, and go back to another email here. Give me one moment.
I just got nuked, so I have no idea what the notes were. I had to log out and log back in again. Just looking at the values.
Okay. Yep. So we were just looking at the values, and then we discussed that our homework for last week, coming to this week, was to go to the growth policy and pull out 5 statements from the growth policy to look at, to bring those forward as a discussion around goals. And so I'm gonna go here because Wyeth gave me statements, and I also saw, Tom, that you
And James also.
you and James did as well. And I'm gonna say that I haven't, Wyeth wrote, because I just want to share what he said. Here's my homework, things I'd like about the growth plan. I will say that in some cases, conflicts occur in the plan, conflicts occur in the plan. Given a limited resources, just one example, prioritizing downtown residential development may increase the cost of development, making affordability more difficult. In fact, I think affordability is understated in the growth plan. With the addition of the PUD process, this could be addressed. However, it is the largest goal I care about. If I had a second, it would be limited additional annexation. My final priority would be to support a vibrant downtown with a broad economic diversity. So I am going to take his 5. And then we'll do the rest of everyone else's. I'm sorry, folks. I had back-to-back meetings this morning, so I did not have time to get ahead of this. I apologize for that. Let me see. I should be able to create a new slide. I'm ready. Insert. All right. Anyone have an idea of how I might be able to quickly?
Can
create
you add a
another-
slide?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I can't help you there.
Maybe go to the help function and see if there's like, just type like add slide or insert slide. Oh, I don't know. It's not a Mac, I guess. Sometimes it has those shortcuts. Is there an insert slide option?
That's what I'm looking for. I figured there would be one right at the top. There
Well,
needs-
look under the insert drop-down menu and see if there's something in the insert.
Shape object.
Can you do like a copy paste of the slide and then just
Maybe
like copy slide 34 and then like paste it? And I saw there was a delete slide when you right clicked it. Is there an add slide?
no.
Blank slide
Where do you see blank slide?
up at the top when you just clicked what you just clicked.
Oh,
Here's another idea, Carrie.
yes, please. I'll take
You
it.
could just open up a blank Word document, put it in the blank Word document, email it to
Yeah.
Wyatt later, and then let him make it pretty.
Everybody's time. Let's do
Yeah.
that. Actually,
I think we
I'm
must have
so-
some kind of software on these computers where we can like just,
I don't know. These computers are, I don't mean to be ungrateful, but these commission computers are difficult.
well, we don't use them every day like staff would. I mean, they're not like our work computers, so.
I'm gonna just do this. Oh, there's the slide. Okay, hold on. I'm sorry that we are on this. Yeah.
Do you have Trio Office on your? Oh, it doesn't let me start something. No.
I am on the struggle bus today. Here we go.
Under Trio Office, I have it on my computer. You probably have it on yours.
I have this like X key thing here. I'm gonna stick it here. I think we can do this. Give me 1 second. Oh my God. If I start crying, no, just, you don't know why. So there's his. Where's everyone else's? Here's Jake.
I think superfluous is the wrong word that I wanted to use on that. I think secondary was the better one.
And then Tom.
I'm not adding that to the notes, then I guess it doesn't matter.
Okay. And then Tom, let's see. You had these strategies and these strategies.
I had them in two little groups
Okay.
with some thoughts in between.
Let's do that. Move you guys over here so I can see. All right. So I have, this is Wyatt. Okay, great. I'm old school and have mine written down. So why don't we, and I'll add them as we go. Why don't we kind of start here at the top and sort of see what folks had pulled out. And so Wyatt put in objective 222. Establish Livingston as a community recognized for its diverse recreational opportunity and partisan trail system. Objective 2.2.3, support traditional design and active transportation. Objective 3.1.2, support economic, social, and environmental links between Livingston, I'm going to say the ETJ, and Park County by strengthening regional development plans. Strategy 3.1.1.6, encourage residential development to provide neighborhood commercial areas serving residents within walking distance. Not in the growth plan, just my words, implement policies and regulations that encourage the development of housing options for residents of the community focused on affordability and everyday citizens. Goal 5.1, provide housing options to meet the needs of all residents. Objective 5.1.5, create housing programs to retain employees, the elderly and long-term residents. And goal 6.1, strengthen and diversify Livingston's economy by supporting industries, initiatives that increase employment opportunities and personal income. I'm going to kind of see if, as we go through, if we have some that are overlapping. James, first one, adopt a land use plan, make the required zoning adjustments, but keep the plan accepted as the tool to move forward. Goal 8.2, create a complete and well-maintained transportation network within the city. Goal 7.1, continue to provide a robust first response network to the city of Livingston. Goal 7.2, ensure that residents' needs are met through local services. So we've got some safety in James's and transportation. There is more transportation up here as well in Wyatt's. Tom, do you want to do any of the, you've got some explanations here. Did you want to verbalize some of that?
I sort of concentrated on two areas. If I could make a couple of, I thought James sort of created four sort of, let's call them subject headings or things that could be the subjects of goals, which were, for lack of a better word, land use, transportation. What were the other ones you had there?
Safety, local services.
Local services. I mean, I kind of think that, this is down below, that housing is so important that it ought to be its own category. I think sort of land use and growth is kind of a critical category. And then the other ones that James mentioned, I think are very good. I just wasn't as focused on them. But in terms of land use, I think the city has not and should be really taking a comprehensive look to kind of make the city's zoning ordinance and its zoning map consistent with the map of the growth policy. And there's a lot of inconsistency there. The other thing had to do with the ETJ. Basically, that requires a process with the county. But basically, the growth plan, except for areas that are contiguous with existing development, pretty much creates a ring of open space around the city. And I think everybody agreed with that, but how do we implement that? But I think that's a very important thing to implement, because it would really restrict subdivisions outside the existing development areas. And then finally, sort of a general statement of reduce urban sprawl through compact development consistent with future land use map. And that's almost redundant with the first two. In terms of housing, and I sort of got the impression last week that that the goals would really be things that the city would try to do and would be measurable. So you'd really sort of say something that was fairly specific rather than general. And that's why I sort of put it that way. Then with housing, city actually has done so. They recently revamped their zoning code. It basically densifies, it allows for ADUs and it reduces parking requirements, which really allows for the densification of almost every neighborhood. And this, I think, is a good thing because it'll happen sort of gradually and it'll happen in a sort of a one-by-one way rather than, you know, in a developmental way. I think that I think one thing that needs to be, that really wants to be addressed are it's very specifically our VRBOs, short-term rentals. I mean, they're really sucking up a lot of housing stock, and I do think affecting affordability and the supply of housing stock. And then finally, and I'm not sure anything really said this, review the zoning ordinance, vacation rentals, and then implement the housing plan, which I think has in it a lot of things that the city can do besides sort of the zoning things. The zoning things sort of say what somebody can do, but it doesn't, which promotes it, but doesn't sort of initiate it. I think what happens in the housing action plan is there's several things in there that would go beyond that and actually sort of maybe make some proactive action to create more housing. And that's kind of where I'm at.
Thank you. Melissa, do you want to share? And I might.
Yeah, first I want to acknowledge that I really like everything that Wyeth and James and Tom put forward. I think right now, looking at all of it together, to me, it seems like a really good balance between some of the most critical issues in Livingston at this snapshot in time. As you know, when I'm looking back over the James's, like we've talked a lot about housing, but I'm looking specifically at the things that James put forward. And this robust first response network and ensuring the needs of residents are met through local services. Those are a couple of really robust categories, and they're topics that come up a lot from the people in the public. like concerns, especially in partnership with growth, like that all these other things are happening. So I think to me, it seems like a really good balance of topics right now. I like what Tom said about sort of thinking about it in categories. The only thing that I would add that's an addition to the growth policy that I would really like to see, I think the housing action plan was mentioned, right? Sorry, my aging eyes are having a hard time reading. The housing action plan was mentioned though, right? I think maybe Wyeth mentioned it.
Yep, and right here too.
And right there, okay, great, and also Tom. Okay, the only other thing I would say is this active transportation plan, and that might be covered in James's transportation update, but we actually have a plan that we did not have when we passed the growth policy. And so it's got some, it's like the housing action plan. It's got some good, like low hanging fruit, like walking school buses, or, you know what I mean? Like different ways, out of the box ways to, out of the box and low hanging fruit to improve transportation, which would positively affect, I think, car transportation. Like the more people you get out of cars, the less car congestion you have. So if we can put some effort into active transportation, it could ease some of our north side problems in a more affordable way. And so that's why it's really important to me. And because I live on the north side and it's like not ideal for walking and biking to cross the tracks. It's not a good setup, not particularly safe. So I think that's the only thing I would add. I feel like what's that, James?
I think a cool pedestrian bridge over the railroad tracks would be awesome. An architectural thing.
Yeah.
James, I travel through, I grew up in Nebraska. And so sometimes I have to do long drives, and in rural Nebraska, all these towns that are along the railroad, it's like every single one of them has like a pedestrian bridge. It seems like these little places. And so I think, gosh, it is really handy when you just want to like go to the local ball game, but you don't want to drive there. You can just get your kids on their bikes and like go across town. Anyway, otherwise I feel like everything that I would have said has already been said by these three folks. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head right now, or based on growth policy. I think what Tom has said about zoning and updating the zoning map, it's really important. And I know it's going to take time and money. And so we might have to tweak, right, Carrie? We might have to tweak some ways, you know, after hearing from the planning director, the previous, both Jim Woodhall and Matthew Menard, and learning about the costs and the process for zone changes. There might be some common sense like updates the commission might consider. And so this could like keep that process moving forward so that it's something we can like iron out and make it more smooth to update our zoning. So I like all this a lot.
Yeah, just because I wasn't in those meetings, what really are the impediments to updating the zoning map? Say that,
Yeah, Tom,
say there's an area now that's R1 and in the growth plan it's open space.
That's a great question, Tom. So like some of the things specifically as it pertains to increasing density that I learned when Matthew was here, and Jim reiterated this, and this was not at a public meeting. It was like, we go in and we learn things as commissioners individually when we're getting updates from the city manager. And one of them brought to my attention how Livingston has some like local policies where things have to be sent by certified mail. And the cost of certified mail is like not inexpensive when you're talking about big swaths of town. It takes like a lot of staff time and a lot of money to like mail out certified mail. And it sounds like that's a specific Livingston rule, not a state rule, that makes it more expensive, take more staff time. And so it's like those kinds of things. Times are not the same as when that policy was enacted. And so like, it might be time to think of like, what is our process? And does this make sense to where we are now? Because if it costs like $15,000 or $20,000 to rezone a part of town, like that's really expensive. And it's a lot of staff time to like send out certified mail. So it was stuff like that, Tom.
Yeah, okay, so it's,
yeah.
Well, if that's not required by state law, maybe you
And
want
that's,
the rule.
and so like changing ordinances is all conversations the commission has to have in public. And then also the other thing, Tom, is we're down a city planner. And so right now is like the busiest time of year, I think, for our planning and building department. And they're already swamped with like building permits and all of the building enforcement and all that. So it's just like a really difficult time to be understaffed in planning and building. I think that's another barrier that we're experiencing as a city.
Yeah, no, you guys are short-staffed for sure.
Yeah.
So for me, looking at this, I think there was a lot in here that I agree with and or was looking at as well. I think a few things that I didn't see, and I don't know that I'm like, one of them was objective 2.1.1, which is establish community gateways to incite entrance into Livingston and to celebrate its character. So just to help create those community gateways coming in and out of the park. I know that's important for a lot of our businesses, particularly our downtown businesses. So that was one that I had hit on.
Carrie?
Yes.
I want to support that statement. That's something that the planning board was talking about before I was on the planning board, and I'm not even on the planning board anymore. So that's like there's a lot of community support for many, many years for that too.
I'm just gonna put this in here so I don't lose it. Establish community gateway. I had 3.1.1 was encourage higher density and a wider range of land uses. It went on from there, but I feel like I've seen this, that we've talked about that. Yep. Well, yeah, right. You had that. And let's see. I had put adopt smart growth strategies, but that might be too specific. I don't know. You know, I think like for some of the other folks, some of the other thoughts in here might
I think that might be too general.
or general. I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. No, I think I agree with that. Just kind of going through what I had jotted down. This was another one, I think, just because of what's happened recently, but was to build community resilience to a changing climate. That seems maybe important given what we just established or just went through recently here, just in preparation for those things, right? Jot that down.
Just a question on something you said, Carrie. When you guys are talking about gateways, are we talking about just the entries to town, of which there are 3? And I think one of the things that I've always noticed about the growth plan that's even different from the zoning plan is that it really establishes a very high density development zone on the east and west entrances, which I'm not sure is consistent with that. I think one of the wonderful things about Livingston is that we have 2 entrances to town that aren't strip development.
Well, and I think the idea of those gateways is to make sure that we don't wind up with that strip development, that it's a welcoming place. You're coming to town, you're seeing wayfinding signs, it's directing you downtown, and not that we're putting, the strip mall, 5 more McDonald's, and the corporate hotel, you know,
if you allow commercial development, almost inevitably, that's what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Hey, Carrie,
Yes.
when gateways have come up on the planning, when I used to be on the planning board, it was talked about as gateway overlay zones, where there would be specific building requirements for certain parts of town so that you wouldn't get like so it makes it still walkable. There's a certain amount of like green space, trees, whatever, like setbacks, the way buildings face the street, like all of those things being like, so it's not giant parking lots next to the road. I mean, there were different things about the conversation, and it was, I think, framed as gateway overlay zones. So that might, I don't know all the details, but I'm sure our planning department does. And like the process, but it is.
My impression is, is that we have plenty of commercially zoned land that could probably fulfill our needs. And I would really question, that's one thing I really would question about the growth policy. I'm not sure that's really solvable with guidelines. And we're kind of getting off the subject, but you always say that you can do that and never quite happens. I've seen it a lot. Anyway, let's not spend too much time on that because it's sort of weighing us down a little bit. But I think gateways are important because of what we've got. I mean,
Exactly.
I would try to preserve what we have rather than sort of make whatever develops there more amenable.
Mhm.
Have a ranking system for what goes there. If something goes there, is it better than what we have right now or not?
How can you beat open space?
Maybe that's the rank is number 10 right there is open space. You'd have to have some sort of a 12 or higher business and building to go in there. I don't know.
What would that be?
I think it's important too to remember that like there are parts of town in these gateway areas that are already annexed and not developed, not highly developed. So there's only so much we can do because private property owners also have rights. So we really have to think about like, I think zoning isn't deciding what goes there, but it's deciding like allowable uses, right?
Well, it's deciding what is allowed to go there.
Exactly. So I think that's why how gateway overlay zones are different than other zones. You know what I mean? So anyway, I just think it's important, like we like open space, but in reality, some of that open space is owned by property owners, and some of those property owners might have different ideas as individuals than what a particular board or commission might have, and they still have rights to do certain things with their property, and we don't have, ultimate control. So I think
the way the law works, you have the right to use your property. You don't have a right to highest and best use or the most profit that you could put on it. That's a really complex legal question.
Yeah, and I think from state to state, it's probably different too. I know private property rights in Montana are held pretty at a high regard. Sure. I'm gonna throw out a couple other things just to kind of keep us going. Tom, you hit on this and I hit it too, and I wrote it down. Explore creating a policy regulating short-term rentals, or at least looking at what that might look like and what we can do around that. I also had written down promote, which was one of the objectives, promote a mix of housing, which I think we had already seen. And then I had coordinate and collaborate with other entities, meaning the county, nonprofits, and other organizations, was another thing that I had thought about.
Could you please repeat the last one that you had? I didn't catch it.
Sure. It was coordinate and collaborate with other entities, and it went on from there, but I think that sort of.
One of the really key areas there is the ETJ, areas outside the city, and the growth policy makes some very strong statements about that. And I remember right after that started implementing the commission started talking about trying to institute a process, and I think when Matthew left, it kind of died. But I think it's important to sort of mention that process should, get some energy.
Right. All right. Well, thank you, Dave, for doing your homework and bringing all this to us. Incredible. I sorry, my screen isn't as I wish we could see this all on one screen, because I was kind of wondering if there's overlap that we can pull or to maybe rank, but I think we hit on a lot of the same things, and then the few that we didn't, I feel like kind of help round everything out. but just kind of wondering where folks are at. What do you think?
Well,
Can I add a couple things actually?
Sure.
That it just came to my mind. There's a couple things that I think are important, and I guess I'm not seeing specific goals in the growth policy. They might be in there, but I can't find them right now. So water. I'm thinking about water. And I'm thinking about two things. One is protecting our water supply. And this might be part of that resiliency that you were talking about, Carrie, like as things are changing, the ecosystem's changing, climate's changing, we're seeing Montanans around the state really having their water sources threatened or like in critical supply where they're really restricted in their use. And even in the flood, places like Billings, it really messed up their water supply for the municipality. And like Helena was on restrictions last year. So I'm thinking about protecting our water supply. And I'm also thinking about when we hit that 10,000 population mark, there's a state DEQ policy that comes into play where we have to pre-treat our stormwater before it goes into the river. And that's going to be really expensive. So it's like two things. It's protecting our fresh, like our water supply, our clean water supply for drinking. And then the second one is, I think it's called MS3. But it's like a DEQ regulation, and we talked about it a lot as a commission. It's going to be very expensive. It's going to be more expensive if we wait till the last minute and don't plan ahead. But those are both important, and they're going to cost money.
yeah, and we're sitting now at a little over 8,000, aren't we?
I think it's 8,500 last I heard.
Yeah, so it's if you increase about 15%, you're going to hit that threshold.
Yeah, and it's like I think that Shannon has said before I think maybe they've started like with some of the updates that they've done downtown and things, but it's going to be a lift.
I think that's a really excellent point. I mean, you want to stay ahead of that.
Yeah, you don't want to be behind on expensive infrastructure. You want to be caught up.
Well, everybody else is, and,
Right.
but yeah, it's important. I think that's an important goal. I mean, maybe that's kind of are there any other infrastructure things that we should think about? And is there anything that, because it's just come up, that would happen because of the flood?
The other thing that has gotten talked about quite a few times related to water is I can never remember the abbreviations for this. It has to do with the water that goes to the wastewater reclamation, like the water reclamation facilities, so the water treatment plant. So right now, some of the lines allow groundwater to leach in to the wastewater treatment plant. And so we're actually treating water that doesn't need to be treated because it's not like the gray water from our showers and our toilets and things like that. And that's going to cost us money if we you know what I mean? If we're using that treatment facility and it doesn't know the difference between water that needs to be treated or not treated. So like that, it's like an infiltration intake. I can't remember the abbreviation or the short way to describe it.
Yeah,
but,
I think, Melissa, I think the water might be soaking like literally into our sewer pipe.
It is.
And then,
It is.
Yeah.
Infiltration. I mean, Shannon presented to the commission sometime in the last couple of years. I feel like time is weird now, but he's presented and they've done like studies and things to see like which pipes are the best and worst in town. There's like some good engineering reports, but all that's going to cost money and take a lot of time. And I think it's really important because it's related to growth. Like we can't just build houses. We also have to have the services that go to houses to keep us safe and healthy, which I think James has been getting at repeatedly in our conversations too. So.
Yeah, but safe and healthy is a very, very broad subject. And
it is
something that's very specific.
But I think James has been talking a lot about like public safety and public health. And then I think that water plays into that too.
Oh, nothing's more important to public health.
Yeah.
The fines are going to be expensive from the state if we can't meet our requirements.
It's true, and we have heard that Belgrade hit 10,000 and they're not able to mitigate their stormwater at this point, and so it's, you know, like they're in violation. So it's like, as a city, we don't want to be in violation and then have to pay fines around that. So we need
Well,
to.
also it takes time to engineer and build this stuff.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
The optics are terrible. We're on the Yellowstone River and we're not treating our stormwater. It has bad written all over it.
well, and yeah, exactly. Good, really good point, Melissa.
Thank you, Melissa, for pulling those forward. That was important
Yeah.
information for sure.
Too bad all this stuff costs money, huh? Everything on our list.
I know.
Do you have any benefactors somewhere?
No,
I
man,
know, right? Come on, there's gotta be.
I mean, managing growth doesn't cost that, it doesn't cost as much as a water system.
Yeah,
I mean,
that is true.
certified mail is pretty small change compared to redoing your water treatment plant, but
True.
Yeah,
That we just did.
I mean, what is a public works you might need to bond for it? You know,
I don't know what.
Yeah, I
that-
mean, the nice part is we don't have to think about that part. Like, we have city staff that manages the money and helps come up with plans for the, you know, make recommendations and grant funding. Like, all of it plays in together, I think.
But as a
And-
goal, it should be on the table
As what goal?
as a
What
goal,
was,
and that's what we're
what's-
talking about now.
what's the goal that you said? I'm sorry.
No, that it should be a goal that we're, you know,
Right,
we're talking about things that we want to, you know, pay
Right.
attention to, and you know, what should the city be thinking about? What should the city's priorities be? And what we've got now is, and I'm not quite sure I've got everything, sort of all the land use issues. I think we have all the housing issues, and I think those are important enough to be a separate category. We have I'm not sure that infrastructure and transportation can't be combined, but transportation is awfully important.
There's something else that's like a sub goal that I don't know that we have in the growth policy that's come up. I'm sorry that I'm just thinking of all this
Oh,
in the
go
moment,
ahead.
but
It's important.
I think it's with land use and growth. A couple of topics that come up sort of peripherally over and over is that like urban wildland interface. So one thing is fire and thinking about like where we fire vulnerable. And another thing is wildlife. So like we are seeing, for example, more bears in Livingston, right? Like there are bears on the north side and people haven't been talking about that forever. And then they're also like it sounds like there was a mountain lion or something near the park this morning or last night. So I think,
State park.
yeah. And so I think like the wildland, like, I don't know the words, Carrie, maybe you have that, but the interface between city and open space is there's fire considerations. I don't know that we do anything with building codes and fire resistant building, or and I don't know that we do anything when it comes to wildlife. But I think those are two things that I hear people talk about and concerned about. What are we doing?
Well, I
Is it
mean,
the urban wildland interface? Is that what it's called?
I think so. So it's like,
Upland urban interface.
I mean,
Yeah.
We
that-
called it when we were fighting fire.
yeah, and it has to do with
Wildland
like
urban
fire.
interface.
So it's like
Okay.
fire and like wildlife are two of the big things, like where if we care about open space and we care about density, we should care about that. Where those two meet, what happens?
and that stuff starts getting more critical as more development happens, and it's really it's even more of a county issue because, you know, they have no land use restrictions, no zoning, no nothing, and you know, everything out there is going to be on septic and well systems, and you know, they can just build a subdivision right in the middle of wildlife corridors, or there's a point at which you have too many septic systems and it starts to overwhelm the river. Now we're inside the city, we don't have, that's a separate issue. We need to provide services and utilities, but which solve that problem. theoretically, and if they're upgraded and properly sized.
So folks, I'm gonna pull us back for just a second and do a quick time check. We're at 1:53, and I'm sorry that we missed part of the beginning of this meeting. Just kind of housekeeping, I wanted to remind us of a couple things. One, we had discussed maybe finding a time to have a longer meeting that we could meet for more than an hour. We also discussed the fact that we may need to ask for an extension, and I would need to do that at our next commission meeting. I'm just gonna pull my calendar up here briefly. I had us like on 27th, not the 3rd. So I think the 27th, which is 2 Wednesdays from now, would be like our official, like last time to be able to meet. We will have a city commission meeting on the 26th, so I can easily ask for an extension at that point. So we can make that. We can make that decision even next week to decide like if we think we need a couple more weeks, which I think we might need to do. But I'm also wondering, do we want to look at, back to the inbox here, because I think Wyatt gave us some time for him. Do folks want to talk about when we might be able to do a longer session? As for Dave, I get together for lunch. I will try on the 19th and then travel again. Otherwise, I am in town. And my
Gotta go look at the boss's calendar and see what she has written
Okay.
down.
Okay.
I can pretty much accommodate almost anything except Tuesday afternoons. If you have commission meetings then.
Carrie, my work schedule is pretty packed until the end of the month. But like in early August, I could set aside a chunk of time.
So I'm wondering, and Tom and James, I think you really kind of need to let us know where you're at. I mean, Melissa and I do this because we love it, and we're commissioners, and this is our job. You all signed down as volunteers, and we said that this was ad hoc, meaning that it's not going to go on forever. Are you comfortable extending out past the 27th, which would have not been our last?
Absolutely. In fact, I think we're going to need an extension, and we might as well just ask for it.
Okay. And so maybe it would be good to look into that first week. Let's see, I'm traveling again on the 20th and 29th, otherwise I'm in town. What do people's calendars look like that first week of August? Do we want to just look at that?
I could tell you I'm okay.
I'm open.
You're open?
And
I
I
can
don't
do,
mind
like-
extending. I mean, I don't want to do this ad infinitum, but we need to have a good deliverable to have
Yeah.
our time at least have been worth it.
And as the discussions progressed, I think we're getting somewhere, and it's going to take some time. I think a long session would really be helpful.
And I want to make sure Melissa's able to be with us. And I know she's got some work travel coming up that is going to make her schedule a little more difficult.
Well, then,
So I think,
I mean, the people that have more time constraints should really call the tune on that.
so Carrie, I guess I'm thinking a couple things. It would just need to be an action item on the commission agenda.
Yeah.
Like discuss, approve, deny, extending. And then I think that the timing is such that we're probably going to finish before we hire. I know we're picking up the pace on the hiring, that the interviews with commissioners and the hiring firm are
For city
coming up
manager?
next week. Yeah, for city manager, like they're starting to interview us as they put together a job description. And so I'm guessing in August, I don't have a crystal ball, but I'm guessing in August is when we're going to start seeing like, the contracting firm is going to probably be working to advertise the job like late summer, early fall. So it sounds like we'll be wrapping this up then. So I think that the timing is good, like with the transition that we're going through. I could do, how big of a chunk of time are you thinking?
Folks, what do you think? 2 to 3 hours? Is that?
Okay.
Let's set aside 3 hours.
I could do like, Carrie, Monday, Thursday, or Friday. Like, so the 1st, the 4th, or the 5th of August.
Okay, I'm very open on Monday. I have one meeting on Monday at 11 o'clock. Otherwise, I'm open and potentially could skip it.
I
So
could do like
Monday-
noon. I could do like noon and later is what I was meant, sorry.
James,
Do you want-
James going to the other, he's getting the other calendar.
Yeah,
Hey, one thing, guys, I have to break off at 2 o'clock. I've got another meeting that I have to
thank
go
you,
to.
Tom.
That's
Well,
great.
no, it's not quite, we're not quite there yet, but exactly at 2 o'clock, I've got another call I've got to take.
Okay, great. So what about Monday or Friday, the 5th, the 1st or the 5th? James, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good off that. With that, I've got things on Tuesday and Thursday, but I
Okay,
can pretty much move whatever I need.
okay. So
I can do any of those.
do you want to do, so let me do this so we can give Wyatt like a chance. What if I suggest Monday the 1st, like 12 to 3, and then Friday? Can we do, are people available that potentially otherwise available Friday morning, like maybe like 9 to noon? And I'll offer those to Wyatt and see what works for him, and then we can schedule that.
Good. And then we'll talk and we'll settle it next week.
Melissa?
And then, yeah, and then potentially if it's like those 2 time slots are great, maybe we reserve both of those time slots to get a lot done in 1 week. And if we're done on Monday and we don't need the Friday, we could like cancel that meeting or
I
something.
think that's a great idea.
If that gives us enough time to note, like to cancel. I can't remember I remember the time frame for advertising one and canceling.
I think we can cancel at any point. James,
think
does that work for you?
Yeah, I'm good. I can do both. I can do either.
Is this going to be an in-person meeting?
Yes, I would say let's try, can we try to do it in person if COVID's not super duper crazy? Melissa, are you okay with that?
Yeah, we'll just need a way for the public if they want to Zoom in.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. We can figure that out.
You can ask if we can use the city hall setup.
Oh yeah, that would be good. We can do the city hall setup. I'll ask for that. I think that's easy now.
And let's just, I know the COVID numbers have been, it sounds like I was at the health department. It's pretty bananas right now in Livingston. So let's, like they were higher than they were in the winter. Whatever this new strain is. So let's just keep an eye out for it too, I think, Carrie, because if it's,
Yeah.
I don't want people to be in harm's way for a meeting.
Yeah.
If there's like
Mhm.
vulnerable folks.
If it's as desirable as an in-person meeting is, if it's safe from a noticing point of view to do a Zoom meeting, it's more important to have the meeting.
Yeah,
I think so.
absolutely. Yeah, we'll make sure we have a meeting. Okay,
I've got to go. Sorry, guys.
okay. Thanks, Tom.
See you next week.
Okay, thank you. So for the rest of us, just so I can close the meeting properly, Tom, go ahead and jump. I'll propose those times to Wyatt. Hopefully that will work too. I'll try and stick some of that stuff that I took out today into a slide once I can play with it a little bit. Maybe just for the rest of us, look over those things and come like sort of look at them as a whole and maybe start to think about how we can incorporate what that might look like as we put it into the goals, if that makes any sense. I don't know that I said that properly.
Yep, you made sense.
So let's try to do that. So I don't see any public, so I don't see any public comment. Committee members, does anyone have a committee comment today? James?
Nothing for me.
Melissa?
Enjoy your weekend.
All right, will do.
Thank
So
you.
I need a motion to close the meeting.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
James, can I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you all. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Have a good one. See ya.